I'm Chris Smith. I'm a property investment consultant. I source property deals and we offer our management for our property deals that we source across the UK. We're back, nearly approaching July now. June went really quick for me. I'm not too sure for yourself. But we're going to get into our hot property pickouts for the month of July. I'm going to be talking about two options that are ready to go now. So these are property deals that I believe should be of interest to you, whether that's because of the price, the deal we've got agreed on them, or the rental returns that they'll be generating. The third property deal is not even on the market yet. I will be touching on that as well. I've took some notes down from the current meetings that I've been going through. Again, that'll be a deal to keep your eye out for. Cheap, good returning property. Again, one which we're going to manage. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of questions on the Bank of England interest rate and what my thoughts are at the moment and what I've been recommending to property investors in the UK and what to do. Considerably gone higher now, hasn't it? Around the sort of 5% interest rate is what you're looking at if you're looking to source a mortgage. So I'll touch on that as well and what I recommend. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video and yeah, let's get on with it. Thank you. So initially touching on the big question everyone's asking themselves at the moment, is buy to let dead? Because of the current mortgage turmoil that's going on and the hiking interest rates. And myself and partner are looking for a property investment as well this year. It's been quite difficult to try and get her off the fence on a few of my ideas. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you was to look at, let's say for example, a 200, 300, 400,000 pound house or apartment, and you're planning to put down that 25-30% and look at this as an investment, it could be a bit of turmoil for yourself. Not only are you going to try and keep up that mortgage payment per calendar month, but you've also obviously risking yourself in terms of a price dip. I think it's common sense for all of us Brits at the moment. We're fully aware that those higher price properties, it's inevitable that there's going to be some sort of readjustment in the prices. We're looking to move as well. It's quite a busy household at my house, investment and looking to move. And we have been looking at the high price bracket, and we've seen it ourselves. They are reducing. Anything sort of over £300,000-400,000 is starting to reduce now in the market. So your bigger areas like your London city centres, your premium areas like Birmingham City and Manchester City Centre, I do feel there's going to be some sort of adjustment in that. Because trying to afford, a 5-6% interest rate on a 300-400 grand apartment, never mind, London, over £1 million per property, even just for a studio in London, those mortgage rates hike right up, from £2,000 upwards of £4,000 per calendar month. So, like I said to my partner, although she wants to keep the money in the bank, look at properties that are going to keep your loan to value as low as you possibly can. So yes, still putting in that 25% deposit, 30% deposit, but look at property values of 180 and below is what I would be looking at. The reason being I say that is you're offsetting the risk effectively. You're keeping your mortgage payments low, and you're still getting a property that's in the affordable market. Now, if a property's in the affordable market, I can't see any price reduction on them because there's still a demand for it. If, for example, you was to buy a £150,000 apartment, which I've looked at myself, and slap a 5.5% interest rate on that, on a repayment, even for a first-time buyer, it varies from £500 to £700 per calendar month. Now that's still cheaper than renting. So that particular property is in the affordable market bracket, which means that if you was to sell it on the open market, it's still attractive to home buyers and it's still attractive for investors. Now, what my second recommendation would be is to look at service accommodation. The reason being, if you was to let your property out on a traditional let at the moment, you're probably covering your mortgage. Now, 10, 15 years ago, I know investors, old-fashioned investors, were completely happy with sitting on the property, letting the tenant pay off the debt, and obviously the investor gaining capital every single month, and then sitting on it until you retire or using it for your pension. That way it is still a good investment. You're not negative, are you? The mortgage is being paid off. But serviced accommodation, because we've been doing this for 20 years now, with over 400 properties that we currently manage in our portfolio, you're doubling your rental income. So for a one-bed apartment, let's say £150,000, you might be attracting a £600 a month tenant. If you was to do it on a long-term let, 6 to 12-month contract, through our serviced accommodation management model, you're guaranteed to at least double that. So, £1,100, £1,200 per calendar month. The properties we source and we want to manage ourselves, you can be reassured, as I mentioned, that you're not just profiting it on yourself, but we also generate cash flow as well from the revenue of your property. That's how it works. It's a revenue share model between us and yourself. The other way out of that hefty mortgage bill is to buy property cash. If you're looking anywhere between 50 upwards of 70, 80,000 pound, the student market might be attractive to you because it's a commercial property that you can buy straight out cash, eliminate yourself from any mortgage worries or any inflation rate concerns, and you buy a property that generates anywhere between 7 to 10% net return. You get your simple cash flow per calendar month, which again is another option I've looked at personally, because you just simply generate cash flow. The property price is always going to be what it is because the value of it is detrimental to what it's generating in terms of rents. And we all know in the UK, rents are constantly increasing because, rightly so, landlords are increasing them to keep up with the mortgage payments. So yeah, as I mentioned, keeping your investment value below £180,000 if you are looking for a mortgage, and if you're looking for a cash investment, keep that sort of between 50 upwards of £80,000. Look at a student with it being commercial; it retains its value, and you generate a nice cash flow profit per calendar month. We all know the cost of food, milk, bread, fuel is all increasing dramatically through the roof. We've all got to try to keep above that inflation rate because if you did what my partner said and leave your money in the bank account, give it 12 months, you've lost 10% of the value of it. So, yes, investment in property, in my view, is still a way forward. You just got to be careful on what you invest in the right areas and at the right price, and doing your research on what you're going to generate after you own the property. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to touch on that. I'm getting bombarded with a lot of questions on that sort of topic, which will touch on now into my recommendation properties for this month. So, to our first hot property pick for the month of July. This is an apartment situated in Hull city centre. Now, if you've been keeping up with my emails, if you're on my internal emailing list on some of the property deals that I've sent, you might not have caught this one. It's sold out quite quickly. It's called The Binding House. It was a Grade 2 listed building and that's been recently converted into 13 apartments. And we've had one apartment come back on the market. Now, I know investors do get worried about listed buildings in terms of the EPC rating, etc., but everything's up to standard. Some of the EPCs are actually readings of B. So yeah, in terms of all of that and the double glazing, it's actually got technology as well called Helios, where it's got infrared heating system in different rooms of the property of the apartment. Were perfect for serviced accommodation because it's meant to save up to 60% on bills like electricity, etc. And not, if you do this on serviced accommodation, you're not getting a tenant in for 2 weeks. You're just leaving the heating on, whether they're inside the apartment or not. It automatically comes on when they enter the room, and some of the light fittings as well automatically come on when they enter the room as well. It has got an iPad actually on the apartment, for a security telecom service as well. So when people are coming to the apartment, opposed to knocking on the door, they've got to come through the system. And it helps landlords as well to keep an eye on the bills because this technology allows a landlord as well to oversee the bill usage of the apartment, especially on serviced accommodation. So this particular apartment is £157,000. It's currently tenanted, and you'll see from the video, it's a young lady in there at the moment that's contracted, that's been in the property from March the 21st, and she'll be in there until March 2024, early next year. So the only time you could effectively give any notice on the tenant moving out, because of all the current rules and laws and changes, is 2 months' notice now. It's no longer a month's notice. So you'll have to give a 2 months' notice at the January point, and then hopefully move over to serviced accommodation like our other landlords have done in this apartment block. So it's just this one apartment, a 250-year lease, no ground rents at all because of the lease reform as well that happened earlier on this year. And yeah, so it's a perfect investment. It will generate you currently £900 per calendar month. The mortgages on them, if you was to look at putting down 25-30%, interest only of around £500-600 per calendar month, at around 5 to 5.5% interest rate. Repayment will get you up to that £600-700 mark. So you're only taking a small profit as it stands just for this year, and then moving across to serviced accommodation. Now, Hull, we've moved into the area quite a lot. We've just, as I mentioned, sold out on another block of 11 apartments in Hull City Centre. This one, again, being a listed building, but a lot more updated in terms of the technology, and the thickness of the walls as well. It does help with all those energy bills when it comes to you managing the property, because energy bills is what you will be paying for during the serviced accommodation management model. Of course, not now. The tenant pays all the bills. The service charge is, I believe, just over £1,000 a month. Sorry, a year. Apologies. Imagine that. You'd have no money left. Just over £1,000 a year in service charges, as I mentioned, no ground rent. But it's a very simple investment, straightforward investment that I believe should be worth your time and effort, because it's at that cheaper end of the market. It's a really good, decent sized property with decent technology, good EPC rating, already tenanted. And I know some investors might see that as good news, but a lot of our serviced accommodation investors, want to move on to the model as soon as possible. But yeah, so you'd have to give them notice in January, and as of March, kicking on to Easter next year, we can start getting the property let out on our management model. There are apartments in this block at the moment that are empty, that are going to be moving straight onto serviced accommodation. So in 6 to 12 months' time, you can simply drop in and say, Chris, how is the apartment next door or the apartment below me performing? And we can show you the figures. We're expecting net yields of around 10-11% net on this apartment. That's basing things on a 65% occupancy level. If you look at this spreadsheet, as you can see, we've got all the variable costs, which will obviously include the management, the cleaning, the electricity. It also includes our management fees, our revenue share model, as I mentioned. That's our cut taken out of it all, and as you can see, that is the net figure of what you will be left with. So if you aim off around that sort of 10-11% net figure as a drastic bottom line, anything above that is a bonus. But we want, and we've been looking at properties in Hull for quite a long time now, for the last 3 or 4 years. There's other areas as well, like Leicester and Coventry, that we're looking at, that we've not really found any properties where the lease gives you the flexibility on doing long-term lets, short-term lets, and if you wanted to live in the property yourself, you can do that as well in this site. So really nice development right in the city centre. The big aim with us in Hull is the docks. Takes in a lot of ferries from the likes of Amsterdam. You do get a lot of people working out there on the wind turbines as well. That's another industry we're happy to tap into as well. But the serviced accommodation team are raring to go on this one. They will be on the other apartments, but we've got this one. That's the only one back available at the moment. No parking. Parking's not needed. You're right in the city centre. There's MCP car parks all over the place in Hull City Centre. It actually grew in value, Hull, by around 12% over the last 12 months. And it touched on what I originally said. Below that, if you're in that affordable price bracket, there's still a demand for property. So I can't really see any adjustment in prices. If anything, slight increases at this sort of this end of the market. So yeah, if you're interested in option one, please do get in touch and I'll send you full information on email. But yeah, let's crack on straight away and move on to option two. And moving on to our second hot property pick for the month of July. This particular deal, very different from the first one, is a cash investment only deal. The first one you could potentially, raise a mortgage if you wish on that 2-bed apartment. But this one, option two, is a self-contained studio apartment situated in Orme House. It's within the Stoke-on-Trent area. If you've watched my previous videos, I touched on the developer in Axiom in Stoke-on-Trent. Now, the developer of Axiom is the same developer that built this one back in 2019, is when it was finished. It was actually an old youth facility, an old school that has been converted into self-contained studio apartments to hopefully cover the demand issues in Stoke-on-Trent for student accommodation. Now, with it being a self-contained studio apartment, it can only be tenanted by students. You'll be pleased to know that this has been fully occupied since it was complete in 2019. Tenants are paying anywhere from £155 a week upwards of £165 a week is what the current rent is right now of this year. The rents do increase quite a lot in the student market, roughly by around 4 to 5% year on year. So the yields do dramatically increase versus the price that you're paying. So on the price, The current market value is £68,500 is what they're looking for. Now, we've brokered a deal. So as of the 1st of July this month, the investor is going to be dropping the price by £10,000 to 59,950. Off the top of my head, that's what the price is going to be from the 1st of July, is what we're going to be doing. So just to give you a bit of a heads up on that, it will generate a genuine 9.7% net return, fully hands off, fully managed. The management team are already in place with the student ambassadors as well on site. They enrol and interview students you see that already live in the block to work in the main reception and to man the communal facilities like the games room and gymnasium. But for £59,950 is an absolute deal, especially at 9.7% net return. But you'll also be pleased to know that as a new tenant moving in again this next academic year, so in August, a new tenant is already lined up for that new year, 2024 August, and they'll be paying £165 a week rent, which again will keep you at that 9.7% net yield. Fully furnished with beds, the kitchen area, but students rarely spend that much time at the inside the studio. They tend to be in the communal areas where they've got snooker tables, pool tables, cinema areas, and students can socialise there. A very successful development, successful block that was completed in 2019. Very attractive as well to look at on the eye. It was a listed building, and the councils were quite strict with the guys when there was under construction on certain tiles that were on the walls that had to remain and be cleaned with a toothbrush, believe it or not. So yeah, a very pleasing building to look at on the eye. It has got the new build element, but this particular apartment is situated on the ground floor in that block. There's no communal facilities right next to the apartment, so there's no worries about noise pollution or anything like that. But it's a very simple, straightforward cash deal. Investor needs money at the moment. He's gone into development, so he's happy to reduce it by £10,000. Obviously, you will be the first to know if you're watching this video that deal kicks in on the 1st of July. It's currently on the market for £68,500. So yeah, at £59,950, you can enjoy a 9.7% net yield. And the tenants, I mean, the demand in that area, if you've watched my other videos, is phenomenal. If you click on Rightmove, a one bed or just a studio, just to let in that area, I think there's 2 or 3 available in the whole area of Stoke-on-Trent, not just this area, to let. So they get snapped up immediately, especially purpose-built student accommodation like this. It's not a HMO, it's not a terraced house in the middle of nowhere. They've got all the community facilities that they'll need, and they live with other students in there. And because it's self-contained, you are likely to keep the same tenant in there year on year. And yeah, so if you're interested in option 2, do let me know. Quite a quick one, quite easy one to understand. And we'll move on to option number 3. So option number 3 for the month of July. Now, I've not done this before, but this is a site that's not even yet on the market. I've literally got my notepad in front of me. It's a site that's coming up in Lytham. If you're not too sure where Lytham is, it's right up in the northwest area, not far from Blackpool. No, it's not like Blackpool in regards to the the hustle and bustle of end nights and stag do's. But Lytham is quite a very sought after location for families and young professionals as well in Lytham. It's a very nice residential area, close to many hearts of many of our investors who have visited Blackpool or visited Lytham in their childhood. But there's 9 apartments coming on the market in total. That's looking like it's going to be launched sort of early July maybe. But the prices start from let's look at my notes. Just over £50,000 for self-contained studio, £100,000 for a one bed, and I believe £120,000 for a 2-bed apartment. Now, the big aim with this is, of course, to manage them on serviced accommodation. We have recently just sold out on a site in Lytham. Very structured, and the actual guy who sold that one is actually offloading this one as well. And the developer's going to be actually refurbing the properties as well for clients. Now, as it stands currently, the building, you can let out the property as it stands, and they are in a condition to let, but they're going to be under refurb. So what's going to happen is the developer's going to allow you to complete on the property 80% of the value of what it is now. He's then going to refurb the property for a duration of between 8 to 12 weeks, and then you then complete on the further 20% of when he's finished the work. Now, obviously, I understand that people might be thinking there's a slight risk there just in case the building gets delayed, etc. But you are getting a 4% interest, and then that's not deducted from the price at the end when you complete. You actually physically get that money. 4% interest on the full value as well, not the 80% you put down to complete on the apartment. Is going to give you 4% interest on the 100% value of the property each single month. So you're not missing out on any revenue whilst he's in there doing the refurb works. But so, as I mentioned, we had an old site in Lytham. I think it was a total of 5 apartments, 6 apartments off the top of my mind. Again, another one that sold out within 2 or 3 weeks, as soon as it came on the market. Very, very popular area, as I mentioned, for short-term lets. If you're looking at the rental returns, you're probably looking at around sort of 11, 12% net as a bottom line in Lytham. Again, it will be a site that we're managing ourselves. We've got the other site that's completed or due to complete that we'll be managing ourselves as well. So as I mentioned, from just over £50,000. Don't hold me to those figures just yet, but it's just a rough idea of what they're going to be launched at, and that's the type of returns, around 11, 12% net return to expect on that. As I mentioned, very different in terms of the payment plan, 80% down on completion, 20% further once he's finished the work, 4% interest during that period where you get that 4% payment every single month. And then, yeah, we kick on with the management of short-term lets with ourselves, looking after you step by step of when he's finished the work. So if you're interested in any of those options, that third one, of course, I'm sorry I can't really add any images. There's other things that I know that it's like a 999-year lease. Again, another one that's got no ground rents because of the lease reform. A lease allows you to do short-term lets as well. Really good area. So if you're interested in that and that upcoming launch, do please let me know. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the July's property pickouts for this month. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom at the moment with mortgage rates and the property market at the moment. I do feel sorry for buy-to-let landlords as well that do let out in the traditional market. If you do your research, I know a lot of this element is trust in the property deal, trust in the process, and trust in the management team, which is ourselves as well. But once you've done your research and you've got one under your belt and you see how the cogs work, you'll see yourself. It is the way forward. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, if any of these property deals that are of interest to you, option 1, 2, or 3. Again, with number 3, I can't really share any information with you at the moment until that property deal is launched, fully launched, which is looking like early July. Please do email me though the option that you're interested in on chris.smith@propertyinvestmentcontact.com. I just need your name, email, number, and the option you're interested in, and I'll get back in touch with you with all the information. If you are simply responding by email, just let me know what option you're interested in, and I will get all the details sent across to you. Again, with Lytham, the upcoming deal, I'll keep in touch with you and let you know on that one. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed the summit. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please do click a like and a subscribe. If you subscribe, I can keep in touch purely through YouTube. Anytime I launch a video like this, you'll be updated straight away. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll be in touch again next month. Thank you.